because you do not understand the esoteric and the metaphysical, you experience it. You do not try to understand the divine feminine, you experience her, you feel her, right? That's why the gateway to your psychic awareness and your psychic powers is through feeling and listening and sensing and perceiving. We are going beyond the rational mind. We are going beyond the logical mind. We are working with concepts and understandings that actually need you to go beyond the ego in order to understand them, that actually need you to go beyond the mind, beyond this human addiction to categorization, definition, labeling. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another episode of Sync and Flow, the podcast. So excited to have you here. Thank you for tuning in. If you aren't already, make sure to follow, like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. This really helps me to reach more wonderful people all over the world and share this really important information and wisdom. So thank you so much for being here. Today, I'm talking about something that I'm really passionate about and something that's really important for us to understand. As you guys may or may not know, I love to weave the ancient wisdom with the modern day information, and so really I see myself as this bridge between the ancient and the modern, the bridge between the light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine, really holding the polarities on either side and walking that tightrope down the middle, constantly balancing and navigating either side, integrating the polarities, transcending them, and moving forward in wholeness, in integration. I want to speak about my experiences at AfrikaBurn. I'm going to make a whole podcast separate episode on burn festivals, what AfrikaBurn is, and why this festival has changed my life. But in this specific episode, I want to talk about the modern day revival of the priestess and really educate you guys on what is a priestess, what is temple culture, what is goddess culture, and how can we come into connection with the divine in a really, really practical, accessible way. So a priestess is a woman who holds a position of spiritual or religious authority. I'm reading from ChatGPT, often serving as an intermediary between the human and the divine. Throughout history and across cultures, priestesses played key roles in maintaining spiritual practices, leading rituals, and serving as healers, oracles, and keepers of sacred knowledge. A priestess is a female priest, especially in ancient religions, who performs sacred rites, communicates with deities, and oversees religious ceremonies, often within a temple or spiritual community. So what I want to talk about is my actualization into a womb priestess. I've called myself a womb priestess for a little while now. I've had it as the name on my Instagram bio, and I've always been a priestess. I have ancient past lifetime memories of being a priestess. My experience of being a priestess has very much been within the containers and the women's circles that I've held, the online containers. It's a role I embody all the time, but in terms of practicing that role, it's always been in the context of online containers or short ceremonial events that I host in person. And so recently I attended the AfrikaBurn festival, and I was a part of a crew who last year built a pregnant woman structure, artwork structure at AfrikaBurn in the desert. This was super profound. I was able to join their crew, and immediately I saw a gap where I could come in and bring my wisdom and bring my knowledge and really serve as the priestess, the womb priestess of this temple space, because you don't just build a pregnant woman structure without it having deep, deep societal, anthropologic connotations, themes, wisdom. It's a statement, right? It really is a statement, because the body of the feminine, as we all know, has been violated, has been subjugated, has been disrespected, has been taken advantage of, manipulated, manipulated, raped, controlled, and persecuted over the last couple thousand years because of patriarchy. And so in this era that we are in now, we are seeing a revival of the feminine. The divine feminine is rising within us all, not just women, but within us all. And this is, I think, also why we are seeing more people identifying as trans, non-binary, gender fluid, queer, etc. Because the feminine energy is not about labels. It's not about conforming. It's about breaking out the conforming. It's about breaking out the boxes, breaking out the labels, and redefining oneself based on one's own creative genius, one's own connection to self, to source, to God, to life itself, right? The feminine is indescribable. She is indefinable. She cannot be quantified. She cannot be contained in a man-made structure of understanding, because she is life itself, and life is chaotic and creative and goes through these cycles of life, death, and rebirth. And that has always been the biggest fear that the patriarchy has had of the feminine, and that is why the feminine has been so suppressed and repressed, because she cannot be contained, because she cannot be controlled. Human being in connection to their divine feminine essence is wild and free and creative and chaotic and lives life according to their own terms. And so this is why the patriarchy has systematically suppressed the divine feminine in this world, because it knows that any being in connection to their divine feminine essence is a being of great power, is a being that understands the laws of the universe, is a being that understands the laws of nature and lives in alignment with the laws and rhythms of nature, and connects to these rhythms and laws beyond a physical understanding, but goes deeper into the layers of the metaphysical, of the emotional, of the spiritual, of the esoteric. And these are all realms that are feared by the patriarchy because they cannot be understood through the rational mind. And so this is something that's really important to understand. We are going beyond the rational mind. We are going beyond the logical mind. We are working with concepts and understandings that actually need you to go beyond the ego in order to understand them, that actually need you to go beyond the mind, beyond this human addiction to categorization, definition, labeling, putting things into easily understandable concepts that are broken down, that are too simplified. And so we break beyond that and we come to understand that there are many parts of life that cannot be understood through logic alone. And this is where we need our psychic senses and our psychic awarenesses to be able to understand these concepts, because you do not understand the esoteric and the metaphysical, you experience it. You do not try to understand the divine feminine, you experience her, you feel her. That's why the gateway to your psychic awareness and your psychic powers is through feeling and listening and sensing and perceiving. And so we train our body and our minds to become sharper sensors and perceivers, so sharp that we can start to actually sense and perceive alternate dimensions, alternate realities, alternate ways of being, feeling, thinking, perceiving. So back to priestesses, back to my story, finally having a physical temple, because I've created temple spaces, I've been in temple spaces, but I never had a physical structural temple that I was able to connect with that was permanently there. This was really such a huge initiation for me. I was the witch of the crew, and I had my other friend Altea, who's been on this podcast before, supporting me, and we were able to host the opening ceremony. Altea channeled a really powerful invocation and prayer, calling in all the multidimensional beings and angels and elements and every star seed race you can think of. It was such, I'm literally getting like spirit shivers as I share about it now. There are some pictures on my Instagram feed of us. It was just such a magical experience. And then we opened the portal, opened opened the ceremony, opened the space, and then throughout the rest of the week, we continued to work inside the womb. So this was a pregnant woman structure. She was headless, lying on her back with her breasts. So you walk through the breasts, and then there's an entry point into the belly, into her womb. And in the womb space, you can walk through it. It's like an inside chamber with 2 doors on either side. And in that womb space is where we were activating and holding ceremony. There was like a pussy temple, a womb temple, and then on the other side there's another doorway where you kind of walk out into like the vaginal canal, a little passageway, and then you get birth as you walk out the vagina into the dance floor space, which is held by the legs of the woman. If you want more visual information on that, you can go to the 8 Day of Creation Instagram page and go look at that. I will link it below. If you are wanting to get involved with our crew next year at AfrikaBurn 2026, also please reach out as we will be back there. The space was a womb temple. As the womb priestess, I've been initiated many times, and so this really felt like the culmination of all the initiations I've been through previously to be able to hold a space. And when I say hold a space, it's not just that I was physically hosting workshops in the womb temple. Yes, I was doing that, but on a deeper level, I was coding the space. Altea and I were putting light codes into the space. We were doing grid work into the space. We were coding the energies of the structure and of the space so that every single person that walked through the structure, that walked through the womb, that went to workshops, they were impacted by that space, whether consciously or subconsciously, because of the codes that we were into that space. The love, the energy, the care, the compassion, the healing. It was super profound. I really felt myself rise and grow and evolve into a higher version of myself, into more leadership, more community responsibility, more self-responsibility, more realization of my true soul's purpose. And that is something that is so deeply profound. When you get to step into a leadership role that is in alignment with your soul's purpose, there is truly nothing like it. It allows you to see yourself on such a deep level, to hone your skills, to come home to the deepest, most authentic, truest version of yourself. That was the catalyst for me to do this. That was the initiation for me to truly see myself as a womb priestess. Even though I've called myself a womb priestess for a while now, this experience gave me the opportunity to truly embody what it means to be a priestess, what it means to be a channeler, what it means to be a bridge between the physical and the spiritual realms. This is what a priestess does. And there have been priestesses throughout almost every single ancient culture. We see them across so many different historical and cultural contexts, such as in ancient Egypt. Priestesses served in temples devoted to gods and goddesses like Isis and Hathor. They performed music, dance, and ritual offerings, particularly during ceremonies for fertility, death, and renewal. Some held powerful titles such as God's wife of Amun, a political and spiritual office that wielded significant influence. Okay, there were also sex temples in ancient Egypt and in ancient cultures. This is where the priestesses would be holding that divine energy, and powerful men, kings and warriors, would go to these temples and they would make love to the sex priestesses as a way of contacting the divine. Women were seen as this portal, because truly that's what we are, as a portal to the divine. We hold the divine in our womb, in our pussy, because this is a space of creation. Okay, and so our wombs are directly connected to the divine. And so powerful men would go to these temples to make love to the sex priestesses as a way of getting courage and blessings and prayers for their battles, for their missions, okay? And in that way, they would consult the divine and ask for the support, ask for the protection before going into battle, because they knew that if they had the divine on their side, the likelihood of their success was increased tenfold. Okay, we also saw priestesses in ancient Greece. Priestesses were central figures in the cults of goddesses such as Artemis, Athena, and Demeter. The Pythia, or the Oracle of Delphi, was a famous priestess of Apollo who delivered prophetic messages in a trance-like state. I'm sure we've all heard of the Oracle of Delphi. There's that famous song by Aminati called Pythia. I love that song. If you listen to Aminati, their music is very, very priestess temple culture oriented with like a modern day electro depth to it. Priestesses were often lifelong virgins or older women past childbearing age, depending on the deity's requirements. In ancient Rome, the Vestal virgins were priestesses of Vesta, goddess of the hearth and home. They kept the sacred fire burning in her temple and maintained chastity during their service. Their role was vital to the spiritual health of Rome, and they were granted rare legal and social privileges. In Mesopotamia and Sumer, priestesses served in temples as mediators between people and the gods, performing complex rituals, maintaining temple economy, and sometimes engaging in sacred sexuality as part of fertility rituals. That's exactly what I said. That's also what happened in ancient Egypt. So it seems like in the Western ancient cultures, such as Greece and Rome, there was a need for these priestesses to be celibates and virgins, whereas in some of the more Eastern temple cultures, the sacred sexuality and sexual acts were a part of their connection to the divine. It says here, Enheduanna, daughter of Sargon of Akkad, was a high priestess and the first known named author in history. Oh my God, that's crazy. And indigenous and earth-based traditions. In various indigenous and pagan traditions, priestesses are the stewards of earth-based wisdom, midwives of transformation, and guides in rites of passage such as birth, menstruation, marriage, and death. They often led seasonal festivals and moon ceremonies and were seen as channels of the divine feminine. Okay? And so the roles and responsibilities of the priestesses were multiple, relating to conducting rituals, whether they were seasonal, fertility, funerary, or purification. They also served as healers, using herbs, energy, sound, and hands-on bodywork practices. They received divine messages. They were oracles. They received messages through dreams and trance states. And they were holding sacred space for initiations, ceremonies, and personal transformation, as well as teaching spiritual knowledge and the feminine mysteries. Okay, the priestess symbolizes the divine feminine, symbolizes inner wisdom, intuition, and sacred power. The priestess represents a lineage of women who embodied spiritual authority before patriarchal religions marginalized or erased them. Today, many women reclaim the title priestess as a way of reconnecting with ancestral traditions, embodying feminine spirituality, and holding ceremonial space in modern spiritual communities. Okay, and so this is exactly what I was doing at AfrikaBurn, being that channel, being that bridge, holding the codes and the keys to this ancient divine feminine wisdom that doesn't come through the logic. It comes through the body. It comes through the sex. It comes through the sensations and the feelings and the emotions and the blood and the cum and the sweat and the tears. Okay? These are all portals of infinite wisdom that connect us to a higher intelligence. There is a higher intelligence that goes beyond the rational mind. I think that was the biggest, most egoic thing that humans ever did, was place the rational mind at the top of the pyramid, when actually the rational mind is at the bottom of the pyramid. And at the top of the pyramid is divine intelligence. There is no greater intelligence beyond divine intelligence. But the fact that we as humans think that human intelligence is the greatest intelligence of them all, the rational mind, the ego, it's laughable. It truly, truly is laughable. And so this is why I call myself a modern day priestess. I am holding the codes within my body, within my heart, within my womb, within my pussy. I am holding ancient wisdom, ancient codes, ancient remembrance. Because again, it's not about learning, it's about remembering. It's about getting the ego out the way so that we can receive this divine wisdom that is coming through the sensations, the emotions, the blood, the sex, the experiential. Okay? The priestesses were connected to the divine because they experienced the divine on a physical level. If you know about the story of Lemuria, this is what was happening, okay? Priestesses would get hits like lightning. The intuition and the wisdom would hit them in their body like a lightning spark, and it would take over their entire being. And they would preach and sing and cry and wail and make art and use their expression through the body as a way of channeling the divine. Okay? So there is a modern day revival of this energy, and I'm so excited for it. I'm so here for it. The Age of Aquarius is bringing this in. Okay, the Age of Aquarius says that there will be no more learning through books and egoic wisdom. There will be learning through experience. There will be learning through surrender. There will be learning through divine initiation. Maybe you're resonating with all of this. Maybe you feel like you are a modern day priestess too. Send me a DM on Instagram. Tell me you're a priestess. Tell me you want to connect. Because this is coming back in a big way. No longer are women expected to be the same as men. Because this is a power that is bestowed to women. Because we have the perceptive and receptive abilities of our womb. We can receive, just like we can receive a soul, an unborn soul into our womb and give birth to that baby, we can also receive higher wisdom, higher guidance, intuition, insights into our body, into our womb space, and bring that into the physical through our voice, through our expression, through our sharing, through our dance, through the way we utilize and express that energy. And the more you get out of your own way and you make time for practices like meditation, like yoga, and opening the body, opening the channel, purifying your body, purifying your channel, quitting alcohol, quitting substances, you become a channel and you become open and you allow yourself, especially if you ask. You cannot receive what you haven't asked for. And so now I'm in this space where I intricately feel the goddess moving through me. I feel the desires of the goddess moving through me because they are my desires. Because I'm not serving Josie, this small I human. I'm serving the greater I. I'm serving the greater humanity. I'm serving the divine through my own body, through acknowledging my soul's purpose and moving towards opportunities that allow me to come into contact and connection with my soul's purpose. And that is one of the greatest blessings and gifts I have ever experienced in my life. Wow. I feel so humble. I feel so open. I feel so excited for my future because I know that I am not just walking, I am running towards my soul's purpose. Okay, and my soul's purpose is my entire life. I have my entire life to achieve my soul's purpose. And I already am living, breathing, feeling my soul's purpose. I am ready on the path. Part of this podcast is part of my soul's purpose. Sharing this wisdom freely and openly with you guys is part of my soul's purpose. Okay, this is part of my priestess channeling to share divine wisdom and knowledge. And this is the gift of the feminine. We have wombs, which allows us to tap into something that is so much greater beyond the self, allows us to tap into this divine wisdom, this divine love, okay, and manifest it in the 3D, not just keep it as these woo-woo dreams and feelings and sensations, but actually manifest it and actually facilitate transformational spaces for others to meet the divine within themselves, and through that process discover what their soul's purpose is and what their spiritual gifts are. So I was a priestess the entire week, but I was also holding the grid, which means it's the energetic field of the space of where the structure was. And the grid can be negatively or positively influenced. And so I was making sure that the grid was on a positive influence, really making sure to code energy into the land and into the structure, connecting with the structure as if it was a being itself. Because really, this is how our world is made up. It is made up of these beings in the unseen realms, these energies. And so when we create a structure, we give life to it. So the structure has its own life of its own. And that life is dependent on the ways that in which people interact with that being, with that structure, with that space. Even when I wasn't physically at the structure, I'm still holding space because I connected my body and my energy to the structure's energy, to my womb, to the womb temple of the structure. So on the Wednesday, Althea and I hosted a really, really powerful workshop. It was a light language, DNA, full system clearing, chakra, energy healing session. It's hard for me to even put into words what we did and what that means. Althea was the one that activated me in light language 2 years ago in 2023. And since then, my channel has opened and expanded so much. I have been channeling a lot, not so much on social media, but definitely much more in my in-person events. And so Althea and I hosted a workshop together. That was on the Wednesday. We had a group of about, I'd say, 15 people, and each of them experienced such deep, profound experiences. There was a lot of crying, a lot of releasing. People were having like full body shaking. A friend of mine said that he got these visualizations of like cats and butterflies, and I was like, babe, that's literally me and Althea. Like, her spirit animal's a cat, mine's a butterfly. Like, of course you did. That was really cool. Some people were having like these really intense emotional reactions. One girl, Shame, she got sick really badly with a virus for like 3 days, like really intensely. That night she got really sick, and I feel so bad for her. But you know, this is what happens when you haven't been doing your own clearing and energetic healing and working with, you know, the buried subconscious energies, because that's what we're working with, all of the buried deep emotions that are living in your subconscious that have been stored there for maybe 6 years, maybe like 16 years, you know. So it's really about realizing that anything can come to the surface, and especially viruses, are a way of the body purging and are a way of the system upgrading itself. So sometimes you do need to go through a really intense purge, and that is going to happen through illness, through sickness. And those symptoms and those experiences are a messenger in themselves, right? And so this is why I never get sick really, because I am constantly doing energetic work on myself. I'm not suppressing emotions. I'm feeling things as they come up. I'm facing my problems head on. I'm not suppressing and I'm not pushing things away for later, although there is no such thing as later in the body, as we know. So this whole week as well, I was actually in my luteal phase, which is very interesting because the luteal phase is the time of the priestess. This is when we have the hormone progesterone be most dominant, and they actually say that progesterone is the priestess hormone. It is the hormone that allows us to cultivate this deep internal awareness, because as we move closer and closer to menstruation, the veil between the physical and the spiritual becomes thinner and thinner. And so when we bleed, there is no veil. It's like we are one with the spiritual world, right? And we feel that through our body, through the process of bleeding, through the fact that our crown to our root is completely open. The luteal phase is really this priestess time of deep introspection, of deep awareness, and of heightened sensitivity, not just on an emotional level, but on all levels, on a psychic level, on a spiritual level. We need to tap into this. Like, there is a reason we are so sensitive during our luteal. The fact that our skills and our strengths during that time have nothing to do with the rational mind or the physical body. It's all about the psychic awareness, the internal awareness, the emotional awareness. So I know I was like PMSing a little bit as well. I was so in my divine priestess energy, and I just wanted to focus on that and being in that space. So the whole week I was hosting and holding circles and holding space and holding transformations for other people. And it was really about me serving the community, me serving the festival, me serving the people in my workshops. And I knew I was due to start my period. And on the Friday, I had my last workshop. And I remember saying to myself, I know my period's probably going to come on Friday after I finish my heart space workshop. And so on Friday, you must go look on my Instagram. The first photo I posted from Burn this year, in a red lace thong, a red pleather harness, full body harness. I put red tape on my boobs, and I was wearing these red feather angel wings. And I have never felt more powerful in anything else. Like, okay, the dress I was wearing on the Monday ceremony with the crown, that was fucking beautiful. My matric dance dress, my prom dress. This was like a whole nother level of power, being in my blood angel energy. And in that workshop on the Friday, it was the most profound, the deepest, most embodied, most shamanic experience I've ever facilitated in my life, right? And I've been facilitating experiences for people for the last 5 years. And so this was just honestly so profound, so powerful. And I felt like I didn't even really do that much. All I did was be present and be in tune. I opened myself up, I got out the way, and I allowed for my channel to speak it through itself, allowed for my deep soul knowing truth to come from my womb, these deep source codes of the goddess, of the divine feminine energy, to speak through my womb and to come into my body and come out my mouth, as I guided this experience for not just women but men as well, to come into connection with their womb space, their sacred sacral chakra, right? Men also have an energetic womb. We have to remember this. The energetic womb of men and the physical womb of women is storing so much generational pain and grief and trauma that we haven't had the capacity or the tools to process. And so in this workshop, I simply just allowed people to drop into their bodies and drop into this shamanic, hypnotic state of being, which is an altered state of consciousness that allowed them to meet themselves. Working with the tantric principles of movement, sound, and breath, I, through my presence, drop people into their body, into this hypnotic state. All I would do is just offer guidance through my voice, so channeled light language through my voice on the microphone, and this allowed, the light language is healing healing. It's energy healing through the voice. It's a new technology. If you want to know more about light language, go listen to episode, I think it's 25 with Altea. Otherwise, I'll just link it in the description below. Light language has become a really powerful modality for me to use on myself as well as with my clients. And so truly, this was the most powerful shamanic container I've ever hosted or facilitated. Feedback that I got from my workshops at Burn was just like honestly life-changing. I would love to actually read you guys. This testimonial was specifically about this workshop that I hosted on the Friday. So I'll read it for you. It's from this girl called Mina. She's from Belgium. And she wrote, "Going into the workshop without any expectations, I had an experience that left a deep impression. Through breathing and conscious connecting with the sacred womb space, I tapped into some emotions I normally can't reach easily. The space felt safe and held. The sounds of people around me encouraged me to let go of any thoughts and freely express myself through laughter and crying. It opened me up. Josie's messages really entering my being. I am so grateful." AfrikaBurn was wild, intense, beautiful, loud, introspective, breathtaking, and so many emotions I can't even describe. This workshop stood out in many ways, and it gave me a push in the right direction. I had been distracted, but now I know again where to go. On a long, hobbly, but beautiful and rewarding path. The connection I felt with the other women around me during this workshop on the burn and the first full moon women's circle that I hosted called Goddess Decompression after the burn has changed me. I feel changed, empowered, encouraged, and most of all, I am not alone. And she wrote that straight from her heart. And I just feel so grateful to receive these testimonials and shared experiences of the women who are working with me and who are receiving my codes and who are willing to face and confront and most importantly feel what they have been so afraid to feel. And so I'm just giving them the space that creates safety, that allows them to go deeper than they've ever been able to go before. And that is honestly like the biggest blessing for me. And I feel so fucking grateful to be stepping more and more into this priestess energy, into doing this work, into really reclaiming and claiming my spiritual divine authority. Like I said, the priestesses hold a divine authority. They hold a wisdom that says, listen up, that says, sit down and listen to these codes, listen to this wisdom, because it's coming from the divine, straight from source, straight from the goddess herself, straight from God, straight from the one all creator, source living consciousness. And this is what is going to heal this planet. And so if you feel like you have a message to share, feel like you can bring healing to this world, I encourage you to embrace it and go after that dream. Never stop pursuing what you know this world needs, because it takes boundary breakers like us to be able to change the world. It takes people who are crazy enough to say or think that they can change the world, because they will. And it's happening one womb, one heart, one human at a time. And I feel so grateful for the experience to be able to facilitate these deep experiences and containers for people. Truly, it is changing my life. And if you would like to work with me and experience this divine healing activations yourself, please reach out via DM. I have some spots open right now for one-to-one coaching, as well as my 6-week group coaching container Liberated Womb is going to start again in July. So I'm launching it this June. This will be the last time it's running as a 6-week container at this price point, and in future it's going to be run as a 12-week container, because I've realized that 6 weeks is just way too short for us to be diving into such deep topic, and it feels quite rushed. So yeah, I'm really excited. And then I'm also launching another program called Date Like a Goddess, and this will be a 6-week portal course. So I'm really excited about that. Please feel free to get in contact with me. Check out my website, check out my offerings. There are some on-demand masterclasses and mini courses on my shop. So go peruse that and see what resonates. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. We will connect hopefully soon. Also, I'm going to Europe on the 5th of June. So I will be in Europe for about 4 months doing in-person workshops in Parma, Barca, and Berlin. So if you are based in any of those cities, feel free to reach out and find out. Otherwise, if you are living in Europe and you are in other cities and you would like me to come to your city and host in-person womb ceremonies and workshops and experiences, especially for you and your girlfriends, then please send me a DM as well, and maybe we can make something happen. Because yeah, if there's desire for it and the need, then I will come and be there, and let's make it happen. Okay. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting this podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, don't forget to leave a rating and review. Please share this episode if it resonated with your friends, with your fellow priestesses. And if you're watching on Instagram, go listen on the other platforms. I love you so much. See you next time. Ciao, baby.